All right, so we're gonna plan our sketch for our armature. Our armature will be the wire framework for our sculpture, and for planning this, we want to start by drawing it. So put the overall height of what you want your sculpture to be, and find the halfway point. And I can double check that by taking a scrap of paper and saying, okay, that's halfway, that's halfway. So I'm going to move this line up just a little bit. So now this is the same size as this. From there, when we start with our wire, we're going to be starting with one piece of wire for the torso, and that's going to get us all the way down to the feet from here. So the top of the head's going to be here. So to figure out the size of the head, I'm going to take the hips to the head, divide that in half. So now this space is the same size as this space. And it just has to be approximate. It doesn't have to be perfect, just pretty close. And then take that space and divide that in half. And now I know the top of my head will be there. My chin will be there. From there, I'm going to bend the wire around. I'm going to twist to make some space for the neck. And then I'm going to give a rib cage. The rib cage, it's not going to be huge, but it'll come a little bit past that midway point. And then I'll give another little twist, and I will show you all of this with the wire in just a minute. And then from there, I have another space for the hips. This space here is approximately the same size as the head. It's just turned sideways. And then from there, I will have the hips and the legs with knees midway. Every time there's a pivot point, I'm going to put a circle. There's an ankle, a heel, and the foot. Actually, the heel can go a little bit more toward the inside because your ankle is not right over your heel. It's a little bit more forward than that. So I have an ankle, a heel, and a foot. I will be adding on arms, and those are going to go midway between the knee and the hips. So if I take this distance right here, divide that in half, I can say, all right, that's going to be a hand, then a wrist, and I'm going to go right up, give myself a shoulder. The wire is going to wrap across this. You can see it wrapping across, and again, I will break this down and show it to you how to do it step by step. Shoulder, wrist, other hand, and then pretty even with the belly button is going to be where your elbows are, right at your waist. Okay. So this is the drawing you want to start with, because now when I use my wire, I am going to measure everything against this and try my best to make it match. This wire is only for the torso. I'll use a second wire for the hips. So at this point, this is only 2 pieces of wire. So they start off really long, and anything extra we just wrap right around the torso. We don't have to cut it. We don't have to worry if ours is longer or shorter than our neighbors. It doesn't matter. We're just going to use that wire and secure it or stop it if we run out of wire. So to start off with, I'm going to take and just try to make this match the size of the head. So when you're trying to bend the wire, it's sometimes good to use your finger to push, and that way you can give it a little bit of a shape and not just try to bend it by grabbing and bending it, but actually kind of pushing the wire a little bit with your fingers, and then you can kind of pull it back. And you want to get it close to the shape. From there, I'm going to twist and give a little bit of a neck. I might make my neck just a little bit longer than I have this one. It's fine if it's a little extra extended, because we can always add more volume onto that rib cage on top. So to make the neck, I'm going to hold, let me turn this sideways. I'm going to hold this where I want it, and I'm going to push with my thumb and my fingers and just cross it over itself. So it's switched sides. I'm going to do that one more time. And I don't want to grab it down here because then the twist is going to be really long. I want it to be really close. And then I can shape the head a little bit if I need to. Now let's compare. All right, so from there, I want to make a rib cage that's about this size. So I'm going to take the wire and just really bend it out flat. Totally straight like that. Then I'm going to use my thumb and bend that down. And then I'll use my other thumb and I'll bend that down. I'm using black stovepipe wire. It's a 16 gauge, I believe, 16, maybe an 18. Aluminum wire would be easier to bend, but it will also not hold its shape quite as well. It won't be as strong. So there's my rib cage. I'm going to do that same twisting thing, holding it still with one hand, twisting it with the other. And now I've got the waist. And if the rib cage is a little small and narrow, that's okay. I can add on more volume later if I want to. I'm more worried about these lengths matching up. So I'm going to give it another twist to bring this down to here. And I want this to be really tight. So even keeping that there and giving an extra twist, this will give it a little extra strength if there's not gaps. Okay. Now do that same process that I did with the rib cage before. Bring it out. Take my thumb, bend it around, bend that around, and you see how they've traded sides. So the one on the left is on the right, the one on the right is on the left. I'm going to take the one that's in back, which is this one, and I'm going to loop it through. I'm kind of pushing that. I don't want to get any small bends in the wire because they don't go away. So I'm trying to keep big swooping bends. And I'm pushing this through. This is curling up, so I'm just going to bring it down toward me. Pushing it through. Pull that toward me. Pull that toward me. So it's a back and forth. Pull that toward me. And I'm going to do that a second time. And I have that green tape, whatever kind of tape, masking tape, painter's tape, at the end, just so the wire doesn't scratch me. Okay, so there's one hip with a leg, and I'm going to do the reverse with this one. With this one, it's in front, so I'm going to come in from the back. I can push this over here. That loop is getting tough to pull on because it's a small loop, and the smaller the loop, the harder the wire is to bend. Tug of war. And just to secure it, and it doesn't matter if it's on the outside or the inside or right over the top, I just want to do a second loop to help secure the wire. So one leg is in front, one leg is in back, but it won't matter in the long run. And again, I compare it to it. And now I work on the legs. I'll add in the knees on the way back up, but for right now, I'm going to come down to where this ankle is and the heel, and I'm just going to bend the wire right there. We want the legs to be about half of the figure. So bottom half, top half. I can do the same thing here. Bend this. So the feet are going to end up pretty close to even with the bottom of the paper. To make this foot, I'm going to use my finger, bend the wire around my finger, and just make a loop. When I make that loop, really tight, close against this. My fingers are really close. I'm gonna wrap the ankle. At this point, if you're not concerned with the counterbalance of it, you could work your way back up, but what I suggest is bringing this back down and making a heel. So now it's gonna be a smaller loop. So now I have the foot and the heel, and then I can wrap this back around the ankle. And I will be showing you again on this side. But if I have enough extra wire, I would bring this up and I would wrap it again where the knee is. So you can see how this comes up. It wraps around, I did it twice. At the knee, I brought it back up and I wrapped it around the hips again. And then I can separate these to give more volume, more mass. If I want to add plaster or sculpt a mold or volume onto these, I have more places to wrap things. Not a big deal. If I don't have that, what I can do is wrap a second piece of wire around the hips and then add the volume onto the legs that way. Okay, but for now, let's do the other foot. Here's the middle, come over to the toe, bending it around my finger. I've got that loop. Can you see it? Yep, the loop. Wrap it around the ankle. So big loop, ankle. Bend it around my finger for a little loop. Ankle. Again, holding really tight. Don't worry if you have to separate the wire, you can always bend it back. Just try to keep the wire in big swooping shapes rather than little bends. These are okay. The little curly ones don't come out. Okay. This one I can make a knee. I'm not gonna be able to come up and make a hip, but I do have enough here that right at this spot, I can bend the wire over, and I can show that's where the knee is going to be. So at this point, I have all of my lengths pretty accurate. And in learning body proportions, we learned that your arm span is equal to your height. So I will be getting a piece of wire and making arms that if they were stretched out side to side, like this, they are equal to the height. Okay. So now for the arms. I take my second piece of wire. I like to wrap it around the neck like a scarf and secure it. Wrap it in both directions there. So now I'm getting a little volume for the neck and it's secured onto here. We want to keep this nice and low so it's not by the chin, but it's more toward the, more toward the collarbone. And from there, I'm going to take this, it's in the back right now, behind the neck. I'm going to take it over the front. And again, trying not to get any small bends. So I want to be careful that when I'm doing this, I don't make any little tiny loops. Do it a second time. So I have this really crazy long arm. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now I have these long arms. I'm going to come down and do the hand and then work my way back up for the wrist and the elbow and then the shoulder. So we know that fingertips are midway between the knee and the hips. So here's the fingertips. I'm going to come down here and just bend the wire around my fingertip to make these fingertips. From there, once I have something that's approximately that shape, don't worry about the exact shape of it right now. Just take this, wrap it around for the wrist, and then bring it up and wrap it around again for the elbow. So I'm gonna hold right here, pinching, and then wrapping it right around there. I'm gonna give this a double wrap. 1, 2, and then a bicep. So now I have the bicep. Take this extra wire, wrap it anywhere around that shoulder area. And the shorter the wire gets, the more difficult it is to work with. Also, don't forget, the wire sharp, having a little tape over the ends before you're doing all of this can protect your fingers and stuff from getting scratched. And then I can just wrap it right around that rib cage, wherever, right around the waist. We'll take the tape off later. And I can use pliers and such to create some volumes back in here. I don't have to worry about those right now. I'm just trying to create this so all of the lengths kind of match my drawing. So fingertips, bend it around. I'm gonna flip it over because I'm right-handed. It's easier for me to work with my right hand doing more of the strength stuff. Okay, so there's the hand and the wrist. Here's the forearm. I held it with my finger as I bent the angle. You see how I put an angle right there? Now I can create that elbow. And this time, instead of doing the top of the bicep, I'm going to do the bottom, because just the way that my wire is shaped, it seems to look better this way. And I'm gonna come right back through that arm this time. I don't necessarily bend it to the same place every time I'm making it. That's sharp. I'm just going to grab this pair of pliers. And now the only other thing from there is right now I can't stand it up because the feet are flat with the figure. So I'm going to take my pliers and make them sideways the way that they should be so it can actually stand up. So now I have one foot this way, and I can still bend the shape of it a little bit more. Kind of push on this, there we go. So this foot's ready. This foot I still need to bend. So I'm going to take this and turn it sideways and take the heel and turn that sideways. And let's have it face forward. Come on, foot. Almost able to get this to stand. There we go. It's standing. So I do wish I had a slightly longer wire for those legs, so I could have done the volume more like this one, but that's how you get your wire armature going.